Hi there, it's Peter here again, the guy who hates tomatoes but loves front-end development. Thanks for tuning in for my next broadcast today. We've got an exciting live coding session. So no deconstruction today. We will be writing code live, debugging and learning React from scratch. Okay? So if you are complete beginner to React, today's broadcast is dedicated to you. And before we get to it, as always, greetings to everyone wherever you are in the world. Let me know in the comments where are you tuning in from, and then we'll get into the live coding session. Firstly, I want to tell you what I'm working on, and then we get to React. We'll start from the basics. We'll create a component, we manage a state, we'll pass props through, and that's what we will be doing. So it's quite basic. If you already have experience with React, then maybe today's broadcast is not the best for you, but stick around, check what others have to say, what they have to ask about the beginner questions for React, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let me know in the comments where are you tuning in from. Some people ask me actually why so late at night. Okay, so and this is my answer to it. My time is early in the morning. For some of you it's middle of the day, 6:30. I see from Montreal, I see David tuning in from Montreal. 6:30, that's pretty good, that's not too late. So it's very hard for me to broadcast and cover the whole world. Okay, so I'm doing it on Friday mornings for myself, which is 8:30, and I might experiment with other times just to catch other time zones, but it's definitely not possible to cover every single part of the world at the same time. Okay, with one broadcast. So that's why there's always replays. And if you're watching this replay, let me know what time zone it is in your place so I can maybe adjust it, maybe stream twice a day so I cover the rest of you as well. Okay, I would be very curious, where are you tuning in from? Okay, let me know in the comments. Greetings to Montreal, Canada. Greetings to Egypt. Hello, Ayman Mustafa. Hello, Tiger from Indonesia. Iki from New York City. Greetings to America. Lee's in the house. Hi Lee, how you going? From UK, people coming in. That's great. And now I will switch to the desktop or to my browser, and I want to share with you what I've been working on for the past few weeks. And last week I actually completed the React 101. Okay, so I already had React 101 course on my site, but it was outdated. It wasn't using the latest API, wasn't using React hooks, and I updated it with plenty of tutorials last week. And the main part that we focus in this series is React hooks. We're still building 3 components, but we're using React hooks to manage everything. And some people actually jumped from YouTube and tried to check it out and go through it. And this is great. So if it was you, perfect. And the reason why they got in touch was that it was quite fast and it wasn't for beginners. So it is called React 101, but as I highlight on this target audience graph, it is for someone who already has some experience and is not just intermediate yet. Okay, so today's broadcast is for someone who just starting up. So this little orange part of the beginner, when you complete beginner, today's broadcast is for you to bridge the gap, so then you can maybe jump onto React 101 and learn even more. Okay, here is the table of content, and I've added these 2 modules, which is 10 videos explaining how to set it up and how to work with React hooks. So similar what we'll cover in today, but this goes much more deeper than I can cover on this broadcast. Okay, so that's what I've been doing over the last week and a half, and here is the whole outline. So when you log into my site, you can go through each of the individual units, mark them as completed to track your progress, and that's how my courses are run. Okay, so that's pretty much what I've been working on the last few weeks. And let's greet few more people. Hello, Boris from London. Greetings to UK. Hello, Fabio. Greetings to Brazil. And here is a quick question from David. How is it different from Angular? Is it that similar? It is a similar library You'll see people talking about Angular, React, and Vue sort of in the same ecosystem. Some people say that JavaScript, that React is only JavaScript library, Angular is a framework, and yeah, some people are very hang up onto it. So I don't want to say it's the same because people will say it's not. Okay, but in general, they are both. They are all JavaScript platforms that let you build cool interfaces. Okay, it is different in terms of, back to David's question, it is definitely different in terms of the syntax you're writing. Okay, you can still write JavaScript in both, but overall the whole platform is different. Okay, so I've been working with both Angular in the past, now mostly working with React, and both they have pros and cons. Angular comes with most stuff already bundled in, so you don't have to think how to do fetching, how to do store management. It all comes into one. But when you're working with React, you need to think, oh, how do I manage my data? Where do I store it? So you need to make a little bit more decisions. That's what when I was working with both, I could see the difference that when you're working with React, you have to make a little bit more decisions of how to manage different parts of the life cycle of application. In Angular, it's all in one big platform already made for you. So you just need to learn how to do it, not with what tool. Okay. Someone's using Redux. Fantastic. Amen. And you required one more question before we jump into the tutorial. Are you required to have a backend database PHP? No, you don't need to start with React. You only need React. Okay, React is a front end framework, so you can hard code the data coming into your components, and you don't need a backend. It's purely just front end framework. So then you can fetch data from outside. But if you can just start with, or if you want to just start with, you can hard code your components completely. Okay, so you do not need .NET, PHP, or Node. Morning to Chester Chalmers. Chalmers is in the house. Alrighty, so let's go back to this. This is the first time I'm doing live coding, so I apologize if I make some stuff up along the way, but I'll try to be switching between my browser and the VS Code. Okay, so that should be happening automatically. If you enjoyed any time during the broadcast, don't forget to smash the like button. It helps a lot others to discover this channel and learn more about React and front-end development frameworks. By the way, just before I go to it, I forgot to introduce myself for anyone new. My name is Peter. I'm the guy behind this Ihatetomatoes channel, Ihatetomatoes blog, where I write tutorials and record tutorials about front-end development, JavaScript frameworks, green sock animations, scrolling animations, anything that's to do with creative coding. Okay, so that's quick intro. Who am I? And now let's jump into the coding of React. And this is, as I said, specifically aimed for beginners. So React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. And I would add to this sentence, for building fast user interfaces. It's very quick. And once you get the hang around it, your pages and your applications feel very responsive unless you do something wrong, right? The best way to start with React is to use something called Create React App. Okay, you can build the whole ecosystem, you can build the whole tool chain on your own using Webpack and some other bundlers like Parcel. But the best way to get started, and that's what I recommend for beginners, is to use Create React App. Okay, it just comes with everything bundled in, so you don't have to worry about the configuration. And I remember when I was starting with React, it was very overwhelming. A lot of terminal, a lot of console errors, and debugging and installing the right packages, and it was just a nightmare, and it always put me off. So that's why it took me a while to actually get into it and enjoy it and be productive and creative. Okay, so I definitely recommend to start with the Create React app, and all you have to do is just make sure you have a Node installed. So on your computer, when you go back to here, you need to make sure you have a Node installed. Okay, so node-v and npm -v, you need to have these two installed to be able to pull packages and install the dependencies. So you definitely need these two. And then you just go npx create React app, and you name your app whatever you want. So I called my repo, I think it's React 101 2020. Then you just go into that project folder, into the new project you just created, and you run npm start. Okay, that will spin up the dev server, that will do all the compiling, and eventually you will be presented with a demo page or with a intro page that doesn't look like this. I've restyled it a little bit, but if we go now back to VS Code, essentially that's what should open. Localhost 3000, and you are good to go. Okay, so simple page. And I deleted a couple of files, so you will have a test file in the root folder. You'll have a few other options or few other files in here, but the main one is the index.js, where the React render DOM mounts one single element, okay, or component. So the component in this example is called app, and in the default React create React app as well. So app is the initial component, and it is looking for a DOM element with the ID root that is in the public folder in the index.html. Okay, so this is the main index, this is the main outer HTML of your page. And if you scroll down, there should be div with ID root, and that's where everything is mounted in. Okay, so the root is the root component, and everything is just injected into this. Think about it as sort of like a old school iframes, and everything is just embedded in that one root div. Okay, so once React mounts it in, you will go to the app component itself, and this is what we see in the browser. I've restyled it a little bit, that's why I have the app container in the default place. This would be a normal div. Okay, so the app container is a styled component. I will not get into this too much, but in the React 101 we cover how to use styled components. So for now, just ignore that bit. The main part is that this function, the app function, is functional component, and that is what is being mounted on the page. That's the only component. As you can see, it's a simple function that returns a piece of HTML. Okay, this could be just a simple paragraph. Am I running it? Yep. Once it's compiled, so if I save it, this should just return a simple paragraph with test. Okay, so this is the simplest component you can write. And if I go back to browser, you'll see a test paragraph being mounted. Okay, it complains that the image is not used and app containers defined and not used because I've just removed it. Okay, so I'll revert back. So we have a simple component, and now we want to create a new one. Let's say we want to create a sidebar that will open and close based on the button click. Okay, so that's the aim. That's the aim of this tutorial, is to create a component that slides in and out based on a state of the application. Okay, so we can create a simple sidebar container like this. So this will create a new sidebar. Oops, sidebar. And we can include it over here, but where React shines, we can make it more modular. We can take it away from this function and only include it inside of the app. Okay, so just above the app, we can write a new constant. We can call it sidebar. That will be an arrow function that returns this div. Okay, and now we can reuse the sidebar in the return statement of the app like this, and it's exactly the same code. So we should see sidebar being rendered inside of the app container. So I'll save it, go back to here, and we'll see the sidebar coming over here. If you look at the components, if you download React DevTools, you'll see a new components tab in your React DevTools or in your DevTools of Chrome where you can actually see what are the names of components mounted. Okay, so this is addition to the elements view. This is the HTML elements view. This is the resulting HTML, but in the components, it's the components React components view. Okay, very handy. Lets you then to see the props coming in and the state. We'll get to it a little bit more later, but it's very handy to have the React DevTools for Chrome installed as well for any debugging. Okay, let's go back to here. Sidebar. How do we style it? We can style it. Just give it a object, and this will be object. Let's say background color pink. And now we have it pink. So this is how you do inline styles in React. Simply just pass an object inside of div like this. But there is a much better way, and styled components are my preferred ways how to style components. Okay, so we'll leave it as it is for now. I'll just change it from pink to light blue. I think that's a little bit better. And actually, let's style it properly so it feels like a sidebar. Okay, pink line is not a sidebar. Okay, so we will firstly import styled from styled components. And now we can create an object that will define the styles just for this sidebar. Okay, I'll call it sidebar wrapper. That will be styled div. Okay, so we need to specify what is the resulting element for this sidebar wrapper. We want this to be a div because originally it was a div. Then we can grab this CSS from here, paste it in here, and here we're writing just a pure CSS, so we don't have to camel case it like we have to do it in the JavaScript way. I'll just remove this. And what am I doing? Or do I need to? No, I don't need to. Why is this complaining? Okay, so ping doesn't complain. Background color, sidebar wrapper. Why is the color highlighting not working? Okay, let's remove this. That's not complaining. What is wrong with my background color? Light blue. Oh, okay, I had it as a string. It should be just like this. Okay, so sidebar wrapper is now the constant that holds this background color. And I can replace the div with that sidebar wrapper. If I save this and refresh the browser or go back to browser, you see now the light blue is embedded on the page, so the background is working, but we have it much more concise, and this is much more closer to your normal CSS. So I'll just add a couple more properties on this. This should be quite straightforward to you if you've already worked with React or with any HTML and CSS. I'll just give it a few properties. Position absolute. And then we want to, so it will take the whole height of the browser. It will be 360 pixels wide, position absolute, top left. And we want to transform it. So let's see what this does. Okay, let's see what this does. Go back to browser, and here is the sidebar. Okay, so we want to make it off screen. So we need to use the transform translate, and we need to move it away so we don't see it when we load the page. Okay, we'll use the transform translate x minus 100 minus 100%. That will move it off screen. I'll do it just 50 so you can see where it's moving it to. It should be halfway gone. You see how it's halfway. And now we'll move it to 100. Okay, now it's completely off the screen. And when it's expanded, when it has a class expanded, we want to show it. Okay, so we'll manage it by showing and hiding a class on this container, and the class will be expanded. So when our sidebar wrapper has a class dot is expanded, we want the transform translate to be a 0. Okay, so we'll move it to here, make it a 0, which means when we apply this class, we should see it. We can try it, just hard code it. We can put a class name on this element. In the JSX, anytime you're writing the HTML for the components, you need to use class name, not a class. It would think it's the JavaScript class, so you need to use class name. And we will just hard code it, and we will call this one, what did I call it? Is expanded. Okay, so I can just use a string is expanded, and this should make it expanded. Okay, so we just now need to toggle this on and off based on the state. Okay, so that's what we'll cover next. As I mentioned anytime during this tutorial, if you've enjoying it, smash the like button, and we can do more live streams like this the next time. Okay, class name is expanded, sidebar, so we will remove it for now because we don't want it to be expanded by default. We need to firstly manage the state. Okay, so we need to tell the application when is the sidebar expanded and when it's closed. And for that, we will use state. Use state is a new React hook that lets you manage state of your application and in functional components. Okay, so if I go to this app, I want to know, is the sidebar open or not? And for that, we will use the use state, which is a React hook, which lets you manage state inside of your application. You can have as many states of your application as you want in different components. For now, we just have one state. Const, we will call it open. Then we will have a method that will change this to set open, and we'll use state. The default value goes in here and we'll make it false. So by default, the sidebar is closed, and then we will use the set open to actually open it. Open is the variable that you have access to inside of your render. Okay, so I can pass this open to the sidebar component, and now the sidebar is rendered based on this. By default, it's false. Now we need the sidebar to accept this open property or prop. Okay, so inside of the sidebar, we can destructure the open. Now we have access to the open value inside of the sidebar, and we can render the class or not. Okay, so when the components grow a little bit, you can wrap it in brackets like this, so it becomes a little bit more readable. Okay, if you only returning one simple component, you can have it on one line, but if it grows, then you have it on multiple, like we have on this app. Okay, so this is how we gonna render the sidebar. I'm gonna again wrap it on multiple lines so it's easier for you to see. And the sidebar wrapper will have a class name that will be either is expanded or nothing based on the open value. Okay, so we can go open is expanded or null. Okay, so that will result or render the class only if the open is true. Okay, if I save it, set open is assigned, but value never used. Okay, so it's complaining that we're not using this, but we'll use it shortly. So now if I go back to the browser, we see it closed because our open value is false. So if I go to app inside of the React DevTools, you'll see that the hooks state is false, and that's what being passed to the sidebar as a prop, open false. Okay, so we have a one state which is false, and we passing it as an open prop to the component. So that's how it works in React. You have a state object, and then you passing it to other components. You telling them how to render, basically. So the sidebar only listens what the app tells him, and when it tells the sidebar to show, then we will change the class. Okay, so let's go back to here, and we'll use the set open. We'll create a new button, just a simple button. This would be a cross or open trigger somewhere else, but for now just make a simple button just with one closing, and we make it toggle. Okay, so when we click on this button, we want to change the set state. We want to change the state of the app to be true. So the open will change to the opposite value, and for that we'll use the set open, and we want the value to be the opposite of open. Whatever it was, we want to just flip it. Okay, so that's how we changing the state from true to false. And now if I save this and view it in the browser, we should see the class being applied or not, which should then result in the sidebar moving. Too many re-renders. What's going on? What did I do wrong? Oops. Set open, use state. Okay, so let's, oh yes, I forgot to make this an arrow function. Okay, this needs to be an arrow function, otherwise this happens all the time. So you need to make sure you making an arrow function and then set open. So this only happens when you click it, but not when the component renders. Okay, so let's do that. Save it. No complaints with the compiler. Come over here, and we in much better shape. Okay, oops, I thought I'm gonna stuff up here. Anyway, so what we've got here, the app has a state false. When I click on toggle, the state changes to true, which means the sidebar open prop gets rendered as a true, and sidebar then reacts to it and changes the way it renders. In our case, it renders the isExpanded class, and that is then styled to either show or not. Okay, so we can actually give it some nice transition. Like this, and we should see a little bit. I'll give it 1 second or 2 seconds so we know that is actually happening. Okay, so toggle, nice open, and toggle and close. Okay, I slowed it down on purpose. Just so you know how it works. Alrighty, so that's React in nutshell. Essentially, you have a main component. In our case, it's app, and inside of it, you just adding components as you need them. So you can break your app, your pages into little modular components. And one thing actually that I didn't do in this case, this sidebar component should sit in its own file, and we can import it. Let's do it here because it will clean up a lot our code. Okay, so I'll go inside of components, create a new folder called sidebar. Inside of it, we'll have index.js and sidebar.js. And then we can move all our code from the app inside of here. Okay, so firstly, we will need to import React from React. And then we can simply copy this sidebar, paste it here like this, and export default sidebar. This will let us to import it from here. We will also bring in the styled component because we don't need it inside of the app. We're moving it as well. All the styles will live with the sidebar together. Let's fix the indentation. And for the styled to work, we also need to import the styled components. So I'll just cut it out and paste it inside of the sidebar as well. Now we have the React that we need for our component to render, and then we have style that we need for our styles to render. Okay, so that should be it. Sidebar is in its own file. Inside of the sidebar GIS index, we need to, let's look at this component, copy. What the index file does, it lets us import it just by going to /sidebar instead of /sidebar sidebar.js. Okay, so this is a nice, neat way to make sure your importing is a little bit more streamlined. Okay, so if I export default from sidebar, that will let me to navigate just to /components and import it from there. Okay, so if we did everything right, actually one more thing, inside of components, I have an index file as well, and we need to export our sidebar from here as well. Sidebar, oops. Now I can close this, I can close this index, and inside of our app, we should be able just to import sidebar. Oops, it's not from styles, it's from components. Okay, so import sidebar from, and we can go, where is my app, is inside, so we just go components like this. Okay, so this should be importing sidebar, so we don't need this constant here. We importing it from the sidebar file and rendering it on the page like this. Okay, so if everything went well, we should see the same action in the browser. Moment of truth, and here it is. Okay, so we've simplified the file of app.js. Big deal, because you want to keep here only what's related to app, and anything else that can sit on its own should have its own file. That's why we created the extra folder in components, called it sidebar. Inside of it, we have the index that helps us to only import it by using the /components. Otherwise, we would have to go /sidebar. And if we didn't have index in there, we would need to go sidebar as well. Okay, and that just becomes too long. So I prefer to have the structure like this and import multiple components from the components folder. Okay, hope that makes sense. And that's pretty much it. Then we're using the state to manage the open and close. It's either true or false. By default, it's false. And then we have a button that on click changes the value of open to the opposite. So it flips it. Okay, so this is it. Then we're passing it to sidebar as a prop, true or false. And in sidebar, we are rendering the class. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know. This is a simple way how you can create a component, pass props, pass state or change state, and how to do some styled components, how to make some styles inside of your React applications. Okay, so that's what we've done in today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. Smash the like button if you did. And hopefully we can do more live sessions like this next time. Okay, it went pretty smooth. Obviously, I had some notes. I was a little bit prepared. It wasn't just off the cuff. I wouldn't want to do that for you. So it's your learning experience is not full of mistakes. Okay, so let me know what you think. and I'll finish off my tea, and we're gonna be wrapping it up here. So let me know, guys, what do you think about the live coding session. As I said, this was the first one, and if you are new to the channel, if you jumped in halfway, then I am Peter. I'm Peter. I'm the guy behind this Ihatetomatoes channel, where we write tutorials and record videos about front-end development, creative front-end development coding. It's about JavaScript animations and React and anything related to creative coding. Okay, so I'm front-end developer just like you. Let me know. Enjoyed it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I'll just quickly scroll through some of your comments, questions, because when I was coding, I completely missed it. Okay, so I'll scroll a little bit up. Yes, yes, you need a note. Okay, yes, just for the npm to be installed, I think you need a note. Okay, scrolling down. Baris is asking, will you add some GSUB and React examples to that course? I will in the future. Okay. For now, I'm just refreshing what's currently there with the right syntax, and then I will update it, yes, with some React and GSUB examples too. Okay. Ariel is asking, can I connect React and Angular? I've never tried it, to be honest, and I don't know whether there is a reason to do it. I'm sure if you have a div in Angular app, you should be able to mount it. But why do you need to mix the two? I don't know. Are you planning GreenSock 3 course? David's asking. Thanks for the question, Dave. And I am actually already GreenSock 101 is already updated with GSUB 3, and I'm in the process of updating. So after this broadcast, I'm gonna jump on recording GreenSock workshop videos that will explain how the projects would be coded inside of or using GSUB 3. Okay, so yes, I am planning to do GSUB 3 course or updating the current one, but I also have a plan to create a completely brand new course once I update my current stuff. Okay. Thank you very much. Someone loves the GS stuff, which I guess it's GreenSock stuff. Dave is asking, is that from npm? Okay, so there's another question. He's not familiar with npx. So Dave, npx is another new way to pull dependencies. So it only pulls it's like npm, but the new way sort of thing. So it doesn't pull the create React app and install it on your computer, and then you need to run the create React app. It just uses the npm, and it just uses create React app to spin up your project. So it saves you a little bit of download. That's how I understand it. Okay. Npx is a tool for executing node packages. Thanks for the much better answer, Basit. Okay. To run npx, we must install it globally. I probably have it. Okay, so look, there is some stuff that I don't need to know. I just run stuff, and I try to be productive, creative, and there is stuff behind the npm modules that I don't need to know. Sometimes I look at the node modules and I'm like, what is this? Look, I don't need to know everything. That's what I say. Okay. Any other questions? I'm not even halfway there, so sorry if I get to your question a little bit later. I'm going through what I missed when I was actually coding. But legends, you are great. To so many likes, appreciate it really a lot. A lot of comments here as well. Another question from David: React DevTools is a Chrome extension. Yes, it is extension. It is a React extension. And if I go back, let's go back to Chrome and have a look at our example. It is extra tab inside of your DevTools. You can search for components. So if your app grows a lot, then you would just type in app to go to that exact component you're looking for. So you don't need to go through and open each of the nodes. So you can search here. It has few other sort of profiler and performance. I didn't even get too much into that. So if you want to expand it even more, I can do a tutorial just specifically on the React Dev Tools. But in nutshell, for the beginners, for React beginners, all you have to know is that it shows you the names of your components, because when you look at the elements, this is just generated HTML. So you don't know which component actually is responsible for it. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to mention, when you're working with styled components, how styled components work, it compiles and puts your HTML or CSS classes on your HTML elements, but it uses these weird sort of IDs for the classes. So it's not human readable, and there is a way around it, but you need to install styled components bubble plugin, and it doesn't work with the Create React app. Okay, so if you're working with Create React app, you need to just get used to the ugly classes, or go and show and see the name of the components in the React Dev Tools, but there is no way to get around it. There is another package someone did instead of Create React app. It is like a Create React app, but it has built-in styled components. Okay, I don't know, is it Create React app with styled components? Okay, so you would need to go like that, components, and styled components. There was a package, this one, Create React app with styled components. So you can use that, and that would be baked in. Okay, so I use the default one. That's why I need to use the ugly classes. Okay, let's go back. So many questions. Greetings to Sri Lanka. Sandaruvan. Greetings to Sri Lanka. 4:22 in the morning. You crazy. You must love front-end development so much. Thanks, Edward. Great to see you in the house. And I will probably wrap it up. Dave, thanks for the thumbs up. You have thumbs up for me. Great questions. Keep them coming up in the next videos as well. Thanks, Bathit. Really appreciate the feedback. Fantastic. Chelmer Chester, love that you used styled components. Hey, I think it's the way to style React components. So why not to introduce it to beginners? Okay, why to deal with CSS somewhere when styled components is the way to go? And we only scratched the surface. We only did the introduction. So there's much more we can do just on styled components. And website tutorial with React. And that's it. Okay, so I'll wrap it up here. It's been quite a long session, and I have actually a pretty rough night, to be honest. I did, they are removing level crossing just maybe 50, 60 meters from the house, and a whole night was just banging, digging, and crazy noise. But anyway, we went through this pretty smooth. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your time wherever you are. We will be wrapping up here. I'm sending all my positive energy wherever you are in the world. Hopefully you are working on something exciting today, tomorrow, this week, next week. And I'll see you in my future videos. Until then, happy coding.